A very good morning to a slightly foggy Holmenkollen for the women's 30-kilometre mass start classic live here on Eurosport 2, and a crucial race in the context of the overall Wms World Cup title race, which runs all the way down to Falun. And today is very much a battle between Marit Bjørgen and also, of course, Therese Johaug of Norway. However, before we get underway, yesterday was the men's 50-kilometre race, and the men's race, a really excellent 50-kilometre classic mass start race, which ultimately went to the Swede Daniel Rickardsson, who did so well at Sochi. And a chance just to have a look at the pictures from yesterday. So this is how it ended. Rickardsson ahead of Martin Jonsrud Sundby and Alexander Legkov, the 50-kilometre champion from Sochi. And as they came down into the stadium, you've got Sundby, the World Cup leader, wearing the yellow bib, and Rickardsson takes over there and getting ready to take the applause in front of the royal stand. It's Daniel Rickardsson of Sweden who adds his name to a very illustrious roll of honour, and many congratulations to him. So back to the business of today, and that means the women's 30 kilometres. And I can tell you this is a really good lineup here. We've got 59 competitors from 16 countries. The bookmakers this morning make Marit Bjørgen odds-on favourite at 5-2 on. Johaug at 130. Charlotte Kalla of Sweden at 11-1. So the women just about to move to the start line.
Eurosport.
Well, welcome once again to the famous Holmenkollen Stadium for today's women's 30-kilometre classic mass start race here, which will have such an influence on the overall World Cup standings. Packed stands, the Royal Box occupied, and this is the journey. One 5-kilometre loop, as you can see, and then 3 around the 8.3-kilometre lap. And this is the journey for the women. 59 competitors, but from 16 countries. But it will be predictably very much a match race between the woman in picture there, Marit Bjørgen, bidding for her 3rd World Cup success here over 30 kilometres. She's the only woman who's won both freestyle and classic, and this woman, the leader of the World Cup, Therese Johaug, who, if she wins today, will also become a winner here in classic as well as freestyle. Astrid Jakobsen still mathematically alive in the overall World Cup race, and there wearing 5 is Charlotte Kalla, whose plan is to go with the race pace and not worry too much about the bonus points. She wants to be there at the finish. 9 just behind Chekaleva of Russia as they come under starters' orders. So sit back and enjoy the action with myself, David Goldstrom, and alongside me, Patrick Winterton. Patrick, a very good morning to you.
Hi David, yeah, this is one of the highlights of the year and so crucial for Therese Johaug. I just had a look at the standings. Even if she finishes 2nd in every race up to the end of the season, Marit Bjørgen can still beat her. So it's crucial that the lady in yellow gets the win today and extends her lead in the World Cup standings. No race has been more important for her.
So away they go to that terrific Oslo Holmenkollen Roar, the Holmenkollen race since 1892, and Marit Bjørgen, if she wins today, well, this is going to be very special for her, because it means that she will actually achieve a 3rd victory that's going to bring her up equal with the likes of Lasutina and Chapalova, who in previous years have won the 30 on 3 occasions. But of course, in their day, it was a individual race. Today it's a mass start, and in fact, yeah, let me correct myself there. She is equal with 3. If she wins today, it will be 4, and she will take the record.
Yeah, she won in. She first won back in 2005, then again in 10 and 12. It's very similar to her performances in Drammen, where she won in 4, in 10, in 12. I don't know what we can take from that, but she did get beaten in Drammen this year by Falla at the last moment in that sprint final. So we'll see if there's a correlation, and if someone does beat her. I think Johaug's probably the only one who can beat her over 30, and Johaug's got a fantastic record here as well, and I think probably the greatest women's cross-country performance we've ever seen was at the 2011 World Championships, when Johaug skied away from Bjørgen and Kowalczyk in the 30k.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen today. As you can see, we've got the Oslo mist here, at least it's not fog. Temperature about 5, but with the southerly breeze here, probably feeling a little chillier than that. But still, I think it's going to be a warm day. And Patrick, on this journey, very important to take on the liquids.
Well, it certainly is, and the profile of this course here in Oslo is harder than any they've done recently. I know we were talking about how tough the tracks were in Sochi, but the total climb in the women's 30 in the Olympics was just over 1,000 meters. Here they'll be climbing 1,151. That is a significant difference, and it's even harder than the tracks in Val di Fiemme last year, and the tracks there were considerably longer. So it's a shorter course in Oslo, but much more climbing to do. That suits, you could say that suits the lighter athletes like Weng and Johaug. So keep an eye on them. And of course, Jakobsen, it would be nice to see her finish the season with a win as well.
Wouldn't it just? And you can see those Norwegian suits very much to the fore there. Bjørgen finding a rhythm, as they all are at this particular moment, on the first rotation here, which is just 5,000 meters, and then they go out on the longer loop of 8.3 after that.
I didn't think Heidi Weng looked very comfortable, to be honest. She's around 5th or 6th position, but already fighting to stay with the pace. Marit Bjørgen perfectly positioned up the front alongside Jakobsen, but Weng was taking short, sharp strides. She was running rather than skiing, and that's a worrying sign at the moment. And already a gap between that leading group of, what have we got, 5, 6, 7, 8 athletes in that leading group. Usually, and this is what we've seen in the last couple of years at the majors, they break away at around 13, 14, 15 kilometers. Once they get to the halfway stage, you know it's all downhill from there.
So Bjørgen, it is wearing the red bib up front there, ahead of Therese Johaug, the overall World Cup leader. The red bib, by the way, for Marit Bjørgen relates to the Endurance Crystal Globe World Cup. And right behind her, or at least a little back from there, you've got Astrid Jakobsen in about 3rd place. We'll get a check here. And interesting, the conditions yesterday, quite soft round here.
Well, with the warm temperatures, you can see some dark patches. That's where the snow is holding a lot more fluid, a lot more water. And those particular patches can be difficult, and it's going to get softer and softer as the race goes on. The advantage of Classic, as you can see, is they're all in these tracks, but the base of the ski has to be prepared well. The pattern that they cut into the base of the ski has to spill the moisture, otherwise you'll get suction between the snow and the ski, and you virtually come to a grinding halt. And that was one of the key factors out in Sochi, where we had temperatures of 14, 15 degrees right the way throughout the Olympics.
Yeah, need to keep an eye out for 1 or 2 others. Not surprisingly, already up front there, the Finns, who've got a really good team. I know Kaisa Saarinen making a strong start here for the Finns as they come through to complete, as you can see, 1,800 meters. They go out and then they swing around and come back into the stadium to complete the first 5,000 meters. And the bookmakers this morning not very generous on Marit Bjørgen. 2-5 on. Johaug 100-30. Kalla 11-1. Weng 16-1. Saarinen 50-1, the leader at the moment.
Well, Saarinen won this race back in 2007. And the one race that you don't get any worse at as you get older is the long distance, the 30k for women. Although I'm a strong believer that the women should actually be racing more than 30k. If you look at the time differential, in Salt Lake City, the 30k took an hour and a half. At the Olympic Games, it took 1 hour 11 minutes, and I believe the same for the men. I think the long distance race should go from 50 to 75. They're now doing 50k in under 2 hours, 1:46 the Olympic winning time, and the women's should go from 30 maybe to 40, if not 50. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a real endurance test.
So Bjørgen just regaining the initiative there. Johaug biding her time, but everybody just, I think at the early stage of the race here, you really do need to find your own rhythm, and they're just switching tracks there, Johaug to go shoulder to shoulder with Marit Bjørgen. Well, the pack going through here, but Marit Bjørgen and Therese Johaug have already, Patrick, made a statement.
Well, it's incredibly early on in the 30k. As I mentioned before the break, they usually wait till around 13, 14 kilometres before they start to pile on the pressure. They've gone very, very early today. I'm not sure whether it's that they're concerned about Niskanen and Saarinen, both of whom have been on very good form over recent weeks, and just wanting to unsettle the Finns, who are trying to stay with it. But the longer they try and do that, the more they're going to be racing Bjørgen's race rather than racing their race. But we don't often see people dropping back 30 seconds, 45 seconds and coming back into the race. So they know that they've got to try and hang on. But I think the writing's on the wall already. And I think Johaug will be disappointed in a way, because she knows her best chance of winning the overall World Cup this year is to have some of her teammates and some of the Finns get in between Bjørgen and the winner. And if Bjørgen goes on to win this, she knows that she's halfway towards claiming the Crystal Globe again.
Well, it was interesting when they went through the stadium at 2.7 kilometres, because that was the first of the bonus sprints, and Marit Bjørgen ahead of Therese Johaug, so there's a little nibble back of points. We've got other bonus sprints at 8 kilometres, 16.3, 24.6, and of course the finish. So there's a lot to pick up here when you've got 15 points to win a bonus point sprint.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan at this stage of the season of the bonus sprints. I think we can leave them in the Tour de Ski, and the Tour de Ski is another talking point. But of course, Sundby looks as though he's going to win the men's overall, having won the Tour de Ski. The women's Tour de Ski winner usually goes on to win. It's very seldom that someone else manages to accrue enough points, but this year it's a different situation. Bjørgen, who had to retire halfway through the Tour de Ski this year with a stomach complaint, and Johaug going on to win it, but winning it in some style.
Fantastic to see the crowds out here, and this is Norway at its finest in the sport that it really loves most here. And a lot of these fans will have been camping out overnight, not exactly the nicest of conditions, and a slight disappointment because we were promised a bit of blue sky and sunshine, but not to be. But Johaug wants this advantage as she goes round here, and these two are really pacey.
Well, it's nice to see the competition between the two of them. Johaug desperate to win the Crystal Globe. Bjørgen isn't going to let her. You sometimes feel that Bjørgen, with over 65 World Cup wins to her name, she might just say, okay, it's your turn. But she doesn't think like that. She's a really competitive animal. Something that I noticed reading profiles of all the Norwegians, so many of the top Norwegians have fathers who are farmers. I don't know what that says about them, but it's that outdoor life. They're very strong athletes indeed. Johaug, Bjørgen the same. And of course, on the biathlon front, Ole-Einar Bjørndalen's father's a farmer, so he spent his early days shifting logs and cattle around the place.
Saarinen, by the way, has managed to stabilise the gap at 4.2 kilometres. She just cut the deficit back there by a couple of seconds, and a little look over the shoulder there from Therese Johaug, and Bjørgen just following in her tracks. I think Bjørgen will be quite happy to, now that things have sort of settled, to actually stay on the ski tails of Johaug for a while.
I think she will, and she'll know that as long as she stays there, she can outsprint Johaug, and out of 100 sprints, she would win 99 of them. The only one she'd lose would be one where she fell. She's so much more powerful in the upper body. You only have to see her YouTube clicks to understand why she's so quick over the last 100 metres. So tactically, she wants to stay with Johaug, but she's got to keep an eye on the Finns and make sure that that gap doesn't close. It's very early days. Johaug has got to think of another way of beating Bjørgen, and I think her only chance is to try and get away on the toughest climb on the course and then try and hold on to the gap if she can establish one.
Now, all credit here to Saarinen and Niskanen because they've stabilised, and you can see with 3 there, Astrid Jakobsen, when they went through at 4.2 kilometres, Jakobsen was 12 seconds off the pace. The previous check, they were 14 seconds down. So they've got to grips a little bit as they come to the drink station, which is well positioned here. Good opportunity. Finns taking it. There's Charlotte Kaller on the left wearing 5 going through. 19, that's Emma Vicken. What a prospect she is. And 7, that's Krista Ladenmarki as they go out here now. Of course, they will have the opportunity to change their skis, but I wouldn't have expected them to change it after the first 5,000 metres.
No, it all depends on how dirty the snow is, and from our pictures and out on the tracks, it looks okay, but as the race goes on, I think it's highly likely, with so much water out there, that they will go for a new pair of skis, and it's probably worth 15 seconds every 5 kilometres, and you're going to lose 20 seconds, so you don't do it within 5 kilometres of the finish, but 10 kilometres out, certainly you've got enough time to take advantage of having slightly quicker skis.
And both Johaug and Bjørgen accelerated out of the stadium, and they've taken back a couple of seconds, or I should say they've advanced a couple of seconds over the pursuing pack there. I think what was interesting in 2011, Patrick, if you remember, it was very foggy right the way through the championships, and a lot of the athletes were complaining about the level of particulates that they were breathing in, which was something that I'd never heard them talk about at Oslo before.
And the other time you often get them complaining is when it's down around -18, -19, and that produces what's known as cold-induced asthma. Bjørgen's a sufferer of that, which has been documented many times. So it just makes the race conditions a little harder. Their biggest problem today is the temperature, and that's why we saw every single one of them, except for Johaug, going for a drink early on. Slightly surprised that Johaug didn't. Dehydration is probably the biggest danger. And you lose 1% of your fluid, you're going to lose 2 or 3% of performance. And if Johaug wants to stay and beat Bjørgen, she's got to make sure that she's fully hydrated.
Let me give you an update on 1 or 2 of your favourites, because it's not just about the 2 out front here. Lots of people have got the personal best to aim for. Niskanen and Saarinen for Finland are 3rd and 4th, or they were when they went through the stadium. Charlotte Kaller 12 seconds back. Jakobsen 13, along with Emma Vicken and Heidi Weng. And then Sophie Bleckor also in that group with Kristen Ladenmarki about 16 seconds back. And the Czech racer now, Eva Ltova, now has been racing for a long time. She was racing in the area of Katarina Neumanova, and she had a very decent result at the Sochi Games, I thought.
Well, she did. She also had a brilliant run in Lenzerheide, which was one of the classic stages of the Tour de Ski. She finished 7th in that, looked very, very strong, and so I think she might believe that a top 10 is possible here. There are 1 or 2 athletes missing, though, David. You will have mentioned Kowalczyk, who's finished for the season. The French, Jean and Hugo, both proven themselves to be good. They were both in the top 10 at the Olympic 30. The Spaniard, Orgu, a sensational 10th place in the Olympic Game 30. She's only a freestyle specialist, but so that's why she's not racing. But I was so impressed with her performance. She hung on and got herself a top 10 at the Olympic Games. Bonner of Switzerland isn't here. Haag of Sweden isn't here, who was 6th in the World Championships last year. So there are 1 or 2 big names absent.
And a little happening out on the track. Just I want to mention 1 other there. Masako Ishida, who's 31 seconds behind. I'm disappointed to see that the gap has opened to that degree over her, because she's a very good classic skier.
Yeah, certainly. She's a fantastic performer. I was just thinking as I was looking through the start sheet what she would have been able to achieve had she been Norwegian, had she been with a big team with massive amount of finance behind them, and had she been in a team where there was someone better than her who could just encourage her and teach her and bring her on. I think it's a shame, but I think she has more potential than she's actually been able to produce.
So this, of course, is the first of the 8.3 loops, the longer loops there. And there's a great piece of television you saw of Marit Bjørgen. But this is interesting here. 2 Finns, 2 Swedes, and working together, this could be interesting.
Well, they need to share the lead. The Finns have done the bulk of the donkey work so far. Either they're going to settle and race for the 3rd place, or they've got to join together. They've got to do 500, 600 metres each, just like you would in a cycling peloton, and then they've got a chance. Johaug concerns me because she's slipped not just once, but 3 or 4 times already. Every time she slips, she loses half a metre, and Bjørgen will sense that and decide that the steepest hill is her opportunity to get away.
So an interesting opportunity here, Patrick, to look at the 2 very different styles. The high tempo of Johaug and the power and superb balance of Bjørgen.
Yeah, Bjørgen is a powerhouse. I think she's 20 kilos heavier than Johaug. Johaug comes in at something like 47 kgs at the moment. So there's not a lot of power there, but it's all about tempo.
So here's the posse. And this is Saarinen, Niskanen, Kalla coming through here. And also there, that's Emma Viken. And Emma Viken looks to be a racer very much for the future for Sweden.
Yeah, the Swedes, I think, are going to be on a high. There's no doubt they're going to get more sponsorship this summer than they've had in the last 15, 20 years because they've done so well. Of course, the men's 50 yesterday, and we've seen some fantastic performances from them at the Olympics. The race that meant the most to them, David, was the 4x10 and the 4x5. Guess what? They won both of them, and that's what gives them bragging rights over their neighbours.
There's Viken. She's the last of this quartet here, but it was an excellent 8th place finish in the Olympic Games for her. Full of promise, 24 years of age. Her home, Falun. Where do we go to next? Falun. But these Swedes, although they've been back home since Sochi, in terms of competition, they're going to go to the final races of the season and the dress rehearsal races for next year's Nordic Ski World Championships. And what a reception the Swedish men and women are going to get.
Oh, they certainly will, and it's great news because the Norwegians have been the best nation for it's almost since the mid-80s that they've been dominating Nordic sport, and it's nice to see the Swedes come back. And if you cast your mind back to the early 80s, the Gundersvans, the Vasbergs, the Erikssons, the Ottersons, they were a fantastic team, and I'm sure they all took huge pleasure out of watching the games in Sochi this year.
So Bjørgen, would you agree now all the results of the Olympics incorporated into her achievement roll of honour, the greatest female cross-country skier of all time?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, Elena Velber was good, but it was a different era. Marit Bjørgen, 4-time sprint World Cup winner. She's now won the overall multiple times. She's had some tough competition from the likes of Majdic and, of course, Kowalczyk, and still she comes out on top. And there is only one thing she hasn't won.
Heidi Weng there making a little bit of progress. This is encouraging. Weng about 30 seconds, 35 seconds off the pace there. That's the Czech racer, Tova, going through, and she's about 42 seconds back. So they've lost a bit of ground to the leaders.
Yeah, Nurmiltova, she lost in the Olympics. She was 1:21 off the pace at the end of the race. In a classic, you would expect that to be a little bit bigger, simply because classic takes longer and it's more of a test of your cardiovascular qualities. So if you're a freestyle skier, you would still do classic because that's the way you boost your VO2, and consequently the margin between the best and the worst tends to be a little bit bigger in a classic race.
You just saw great shot of father and son there. And that's what it's all about in Norway, isn't it? It's moments like this. There were moments yesterday in the men's 50, won brilliantly by Daniel Rickardson, where young sons, young daughters will look at this, and that was a mighty break there from Bjørgen.
Well, it's come back to the same problem. Johaug just doesn't have the traction on the steep uphills. She has absolutely no choice but to change her skis coming through the stadium next time. I hope that her coaching team have been watching and just extended the waxing margin a little bit on the skis, but Bjørgen will try and take advantage of this.
Also, there's a sprint bonus coming up here, so there's another 5 points advantage to be gained here, and Bjørgen has made sure of that. So that's 10 points, and remember, Bjørgen started the day 71 points down on Therese Johaug. It's now 61 points.
61. Will Bjørgen decide to go alone from this point? She could well do. Remember, this is the longer lap that they're on, which is a little unfortunate for Johaug, because she wants to get back to the stadium as quick as possible and get some decent grip on the skis for the latter part of the race.
Yeah, she's not that far away, because it's an 8.3 kilometre lap, and that was 8,000 metres into it. And leading the charge here, Kerttu Niskanen. And of course, she's going to be third across here, so bonus points for her. Ahead of Saarinen, and then Viken, and then Kalla, and then another gap back here to Heidi Weng. The last time I saw Heidi Weng coming through was about 30 seconds off, and
now 55, so that's quite a big margin, but we're pretty much at the high point of this lap, David. They start to descend down towards the stadium now, so they shouldn't lose too much time between here and the 15-kilometre marker. But great to see so many people out. The wigwams and the teepees have all been set up and spewing smoke all over the place as they try and barbecue their food for the day. But what an atmosphere. And this is why everyone is hoping that Oslo get the Olympic Games in 2022.
Yeah, interesting little story. They proposed to the IOC that as part of their bid, the IOC should pay for their own accommodation. Now, that's very Norwegian, because there was an interesting little story back in 1994 in Lillehammer where one or two of the IOC members and wives, no names mentioned, arrived and didn't sort of seem too happy with their accommodation. And the organisation took that in and went down to hear about what they were unhappy with, and ultimately just said, well, you know, this is the games for the athletes, and, you know, if you're not happy, we'd be delighted to help you to the airport.
Well, it may not be the best way to get the vote, but I think it's a point well made.
Yeah, I think it is a well-made point, and, you know, I think these Winter Olympic Games, as the summer, are becoming incredibly expensive for organisers, and I think it's not unreasonable that organisers are prepared to put, you know, the best preparation in, the fantastic venues, the resources for all the athletes, but they say something's got to give.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that one, and just coming back from Sochi, 55 billion. Now, I think the Russians dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still, whichever way you look at it, it's still a lot of money. I think they did a fabulous job, and they had so much construction to do to be able to get the games off the ground. But you know, that rules what, 80% of nations out of hosting Olympics if it's going to go on and on like that.
News this morning, by the way, that the ice cube, which hosted the ice skating, is not to be converted into a cycling velodrome. So sure, that might have impressed some, disappointed others, and Bjørgen now, this is very decisive. She's decided that she has to take the advantage that she has. It's a little sorry here for Teresa, but interesting to see how she responds when she gets, hopefully, a new and more effective set of skis on her feet.
Well, it could mean that their points are almost even at the end of the day. If Johaug goes on to take second place, she'll get 80. Bjørgen should get 100 for the win, plus the extra bonus points. What can she pick up? Another 10 extra bonus seconds over Johaug?
Yeah, so that could be 20, you know. Well, 20 advantage.
Yeah,
20 advantage.
20 advantage to Johaug at the end of the day with another. What have we got? Another 300 points to be won. It's minimal, and one of those races is a sprint which Bjørgen could win, and Johaug could fail to get any points at all. So it's swinging the way, the pendulum swinging back towards Marit Bjørgen.
Well, this is interesting. Round coming into the stadium at 10,000 metres. So remember, they've got another 3,300 metres before they come back in, and she can change those skis. So Bjørgen making hay really in the sunshine here. This is very bad news and bad luck for Johaug. It's disappointing for us though as well.
Yeah, well, we were hoping for one of Johaug's great performances. I think we were more likely to see it in a freestyle race than a classic.
And what's also important is that this quartet here should be getting messages about Johaug and should be really pressing on here to try and get to the second placed athlete.
Well, where were they sitting at 10 kilometres, David? We'll get some idea of how far they were behind Johaug at that stage. We know they're losing ground to Marit Bjørgen. They're now 46 off the lead. They're 36 behind Johaug.
Yeah, and that's pretty stable at the moment. So Marit Bjørgen pressing on here, picking up yet another 5 extra points over Johaug for the third bonus sprint, and that's 15 points she's cleared. She's clawed back already.
And Johaug losing another 8 seconds to Bjørgen on that climb up out of the stadium. So again losing time because she hasn't got the traction on the skis. What's so important for Johaug is that she does not lose second place. I don't think she's got any chance of catching Bjørgen on the way around this course. But she has to try and stay ahead of the Finns and the Swedes, who are still moving pretty well on the uphills. But I'm just noticing how slow the Swedes and the Finns are on the downhill sections. Maybe everyone's going slower. The water on the track certainly increasing, and I think they're all struggling. So we may see everyone change their skis when they come through the stadium next time. 5
points there to Emma Vicken. Incidentally, Johaug's loss, Marit Bjørgen's gain. That 9-second increase was achieved in 900 metres. So Bjørgen just sailing away. She has to do this. She has to do this.
Well, you don't often see her lose from a position like this. She's not the sort of woman who's going to get excited and go off hard for the first 15k and then suffer at the end. She knows all about these distance races. She looks just as strong now as she did in the first couple of kilometres. So it's just standard procedure for her. She's just, at the moment, stronger than anyone else. And had she had good skis right the way throughout the Olympics, she could have come away with even more than 3 gold medals.
Now, somebody would be sending us in an email asking us to explain why the Norwegian service crew can deliver dynamite skis for Bjørgen and disappointing skis for Johaug.
It's not so much the speed of the ski on the glide downhill. It's that Johaug probably elected to go a little bit shorter with the grip wax and maybe a little thinner. So with the grip wax, you've got a lot of decisions to make. And Johaug, who weighs very, very little, she needs a decent amount of traction under the skis. And I don't think you can blame the technician, actually, and there's no doubt that Johaug will have done a few kilometres skiing with the technician, and they would have talked through what they wanted. So it was probably poor judgment on both parts, and so Johaug certainly won't be looking for a transfer of technicians come the end of this race.
Just having a look at the gap between the third group there. At the previous checkpoint time, there was a gap of, 38 seconds between Johaug and Emma Vicken. And that gap now is 30 seconds. So the third group are closing, and they need to just do this steadily. I think it's impossible to see anybody getting Bjørgen bar a fall or something of seismic properties happening. A large sinkhole opening up in front of Marit Bjørgen. That might be the only thing I could think of that's going to stop her now.
And I just wonder whether Johaug is paying the price for trying to stay with Marit Bjørgen for too long. I think she's definitely the second strongest in the field, but if you go with the early leaders and you can't stay with it, you often find that you tire before the end of the race. We saw that particularly in the Olympics in Salt Lake City, where Bjørndalen and Eilifsen tried to go with the leader of the race and then paid the price. Eilifsen never ever recovered his career. Bjørndalen certainly lost out on a medal because of it. And I think Johaug will be struggling, having skied the first 7.5 Ks just behind Marit Bjørgen.
So Bjørgen through at interval 11, and that leaves her. Interval 11 is actually, when you look at the distance, of course, she is now 12.6 kilometers in, and 13.3 is the end of the second rotation, and that's where Johaug will be looking to come into that area of transition to change the skis. But Marit Bjørgen, I suspect she's just going to get on with it. I think she might go straight through. I've seen her slip once, but that could have been a technical error rather than the problem with the skis. She seems to be carrying good speed on the downhill. She's got this fantastic lead of almost a minute over everyone else, and she may feel she's got more to lose than she has to gain. She'll certainly take a drink. Or will she? Wrong colour.
Yeah.
No. Feeling good. Well, she's a very good judge of her own body, and comes round here over this pedestrian roller and comes down the Royal Straight. And the way it's going now, this is interesting, going round here. Marit Bjørgen. Now, they will have talked about this, the servicemen, with Marit, about what they might or might not do, and she's decided that this is the moment to get a new set of skis. Now, all the time the servicemen would have been assessing her performance, so let's hope they've got it right, and Teresa will be hoping that it's not as effective a pair of skis. Again, this is something that's practiced.
Yeah, they make it look very, very easy. But I can think of many people who couldn't even bend down far enough to unclip the binding. A lot of people have to go down on one knee to go through that routine. It's very important you don't put your foot down on the snow, otherwise you can get snow in the little slot where the binding goes. That can cause all sorts of problems. But Bjørgen through unscathed. Now, Johaug has got to hope that she gets a decent pair of skis, and I'm pretty sure the Norwegians would have passed the message that she needs just that little bit extra stick wax to help with the closing stages of this race.
Not as efficient by a long shot compared to Bjørgen.
Yeah, but just making sure, the one mistake you can make is to push the binding clip down, but not absolutely enclose the bar that's at the front of the boot. And if you do that, you do a couple of strides and your ski comes off. So it's worth that extra half a second just to make sure that you've got the skis secure.
So 39, call it 40 seconds the deficit, 47 seconds to Niskanen and 48 to Saarinen, but the Swedes deciding that this is their moment to do it, whereas the Finns deciding that they should go straight on the catch.
Good change from Kalle, but now they are playing catch up with the Finns if they fancy a podium finish.
So you can see what they've actually lost there. I mean, they're now, what, 27 seconds. That's taken an awful lot of time. Heidi Weng wearing 4 coming in there. Steyr a little bit further up there, also coming in to change skis. Getting out quite quickly, Steyr.
Yeah, but I can't see her repeating the bronze medal that she took in the Olympic 30. That was a fantastic occasion. I haven't seen many people smile like she did when she finished in third place. Most people initially are a bit disappointed they didn't get second or first, but to get a medal after finishing 4th on 4 occasions at the Olympics and the World Championships was a fantastic effort from Steyr.
Nevilta also, well, there is Shida now. This is interesting. See, she's in 12th place. She's not getting anywhere near the leaders, but what she is starting to do is to pick up some of the chasers now, and she could easily finish in the top 10.
Now we've got a retired athlete.
we got something happened here.
I think it's more likely to be a spectator.
Well, yeah,
the fact that there's a coach there as well might suggest that it is an athlete. Let's hope just suffering from exhaustion at this stage. Now, who could that be?
Well, it just looked like try and find down the did not start list or did not finish. We know that in fact that at the start Dupont, Bender, just looking down at those who didn't start, we know that Shevchenko has pulled out, but that's the only one I've got on my list so far who pulled out.
But that was some time ago, so I think it's unlikely to be her. I hope it's not Johaug. No, it's not Johaug. She's fine. She's still on the course and now looks a whole lot stronger. Look at this, much stronger technique. She's got her tempo back to normal, and it's all due to the fact that she's got some traction between the ski and the snow. So keep an eye on the margin between Johaug and the Finns. It was down to 8 seconds after the Finns decided not to change skis, and that's going to give us a really good idea of what it's worth to have a new pair of skis on your feet. Marit Bjørgen looking solid.
Yeah, and she's now less than 3 kilometers off the next bonus sprint opportunity. And that, of course, is opportunity number 3. So that will be, what, 15 points that she will have then eaten into. Well, Johaug is, what I'm saying is over Johaug, if Johaug gets the 10, then it's only 5 points she's gaining each time.
So she can pick up a total of 20 points from the bonuses, and of course 20 points ahead of, there's a nice pair of glasses.
Yeah, you're right about Johaug. Doesn't she look happier now? She's in that reminiscent tempo there.
Yeah, she's got better grip, but she hasn't got quite as good glide on the ski. So we'll see. I think we have to wait until they come through the stadium next time, so we have a full quota of uphills and downhills to find out the effect of the changes. But one thing the Finns have gained is they've got visual contact on Johaug. That is so important, and it really helps you claw them in. Johaug's got to try and get another 10 seconds clear, and then she should be round the corner. It's a bit like when you're driving, David. You don't chase a car you can't see.
And also, I guess we have to assume that both Bicken and Kalle felt that they were obliged to change their skis. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come in. And so they're hoping that their progress now is going to be a good one. But they've got a lot of ground to make up here. As you see, Therese Johaug, who is quite a little favourite amongst the Norwegians off the snow as well as on it.
See how she went in between the two tracks, feeling that she's getting more speed out of the cut track than in it. Sometimes you can be misled because the out of the track is a little bit rougher, so you just feel it's a bit like driving your car over rough ground. You feel you're going much faster than you actually are, whereas the smoother surface of the spore, as it's called, you feel it's slow, but it actually can be a bit faster, and the only way to really know is to be skiing alongside someone else. So you've got to take a slight gamble. And, well, whoever it is, I hope they're okay and not too serious. It was a worry, and that is worrying. Whoever it is, we obviously send them their best wishes, but I mean, you mean your best wishes?
Well, our best wishes, but you know, I mean, the fact is that it's unusual for something like that to happen. And here comes Bjørgen, 16,300 meters, so into the second half of the race there. I was mentioning Johaug because off the snow, Johaug is a brand with her jewelry and fashion and makeup business. Bjørgen, though, with incredible sponsorship. A very wealthy young woman.
Well, I think Johaug has started to turn the screw, and she's certainly more than 8 seconds ahead of the Finns at the moment, which is where she was when she came out of the stadium after that ski change. The two Swedes have started to close down on the Finns, so maybe the Finns are starting to pay the price now. It's a gamble, and that's what makes this game and the inclusion of ski changes so interesting.
Well, we get a time check here on the chasing Finns, and 53 seconds, and the advantage that Bjørgen had at the last check was 40 seconds. So again, Bjørgen really marching on. And as you said, there was a 10-second differential between Johaug and the Finns coming up to this point now.
Well, and that's gone up to over 20 seconds. And what about the margin? What was the margin between Niskanen and Saarinen and Kalla and her teammate Emma Viken?
15 seconds at the last checkpoint for the Swedes chasing the Finns.
So they've not closed it down at all.
And it's Bjørgen who's mastering this race. Well, just through the news that Astrid Jakobsen is out of the race. Now, I sincerely hope that it wasn't her who ran into that trouble. I'd obviously wish that no one would run into that trouble, but it is a worry because I know, Patrick, you spotted a Norwegian coach in that area.
Well, there was certainly a Norwegian coach by the ambulance. It was a pair of Fischer skis, which Jakobsen skis on, so it may be her suffering. We'll just have to wait and see, but as you say, we don't want it to be any of the skiers, but I think it's highly likely now that one of them is suffering from exhaustion. I can't think of a point of the course where it's fast enough and technical enough to throw an athlete off the course and into the woods. So I think exhaustion is the likely scenario. And the leader's now heading back past the Frognerseteren Cafe, where I'm sure a few Nordic skiing enthusiasts have enjoyed it's an extraordinary hot chocolate that they serve in there. And usually after 20 Ks of these tracks, you need 2 or 3 of them.
So you can see the Swedes are about 20 seconds off the Finns at the moment. And Johaug really hasn't made any impression on Bjørgen at this stage here. 11, that's Steyr, being followed by the Czech racer Noveltova, and all the bonus points have gone at this point for these racers coming through.
I'll tell you who's having a good race is Sophia Blekur, who's just behind these two. There she is, number 35, skiing well above her ranking at the moment, ahead of people like Heidi Weng, the 22-year-old superstar, who the Norwegians feel is the woman who's going to take Bjørgen's crown eventually, but that's a very tall order. Julia Shakalova there looking a little bit sluggish. Never really been that impressive in the longer distance races, but she was third. Was it last year? She finished third in the Holmenkollen 30, I think it was, Shakalova.
Yeah, Blekur, just reflecting on her at the World Championships last year, she was a decent 18th in the 30 Classic Mass Start there. So that gives her a bit of heritage to running in this sort of race.
Østberg going through ahead of Kiken Randall, who's, I think it's been a little bit of a disappointing finish to Randall's season, particularly with the Olympics.
Yeah, she's won the Sprint World Cup title. But again, you know, because of the Falun point situation, there's only 50 points left, and yeah, you know, I'm a bit questioning about some of the arrangements for points. Particularly, I think I echo what you feel. At the end of the season, let's just race it out.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. I mean, I think Bjørgen is pretty much tying up the Crystal Globe with the bonus points she's picking up here alone. Yeah. If there were no bonus points, we would have an unbelievable finale without any doubt. The final race in Falun would be a case if Johaug could win it, she'd have a chance of taking the title for the first time. But I think Bjørgen stamping her authority on this one. The other thing that needs to continue to be discussed, I know they're always reshaping it, is the point system for the Tour de Ski. I'm all for giving them more money to get the athletes to go, but less points, so the season isn't pretty much done and dusted as soon as the Tour is finished.
So Marit Bjørgen in front of the Royal Box, and just worth echoing, of course, it's such a close race in the in the distance globe. You know, Theresa Johaug 5.72 and 73 points ahead of Marit Bjørgen. And then Astrid Jacobsen, who is out of this race. She was not that far behind, 4.43. She was in with a shout. Even Heidi Weng in fourth place, 3.78, had possibilities. Because it's not just about winning, it's getting on that podium, which is so important for all of these racers in the Crystal Globe handout, which will be in Falun.
Well, I think Johaug has a much better chance of taking the distance Crystal Globe. 73 points ahead. There are only 150 points on offer, and she should pick up 80 points today, which will make Bjørgen's task in Falun, where there are only 50 points on offer, very, very tough indeed. So Bjørgen has to stay within 50 of Johaug to have any chance, and I think she's going to end up today probably 73 clear, if the bonus points today count for the Distance World Cup.
Yeah, young Theresa in picture there. Also the leading prize winner in terms of prize money before today, 149,000 Swiss francs. Marit Bjørgen, 136,750. Astrid Jacobsen, 81,000. Kieken Randall, 69,000. And Justina Kowalczyk, 65,000. Although, of course, she's not at the races today. Charlotte Callaf, 57,000. So reasonable wages, but of course, these women at the top, they are supported so well by the sponsors because of the performances they put in, week out.
And not only that, someone like Johaug had an offer of something like 40 modelling contracts the moment she won the World Championships in 2011, and that was only dwarfed by the number of marriage proposals that she received after the race. So they've got a lot going for them.
I think the thing that I cherished from that when she won the 30 was, as you know, you're always presented to the King and Queen, as she was on that day. And it was amazing. She went up there and she was hugged by both the King and the Queen, as if, you know, she was their daughter, but she was the daughter of Norway at that particular moment in time. And I was reflecting with Mike Dixon at that particular moment how our royal family would have matched up in a similar situation. So Theresa, focused. So no bonuses as she crosses this line here at 19.2 kilometres. The next one is 24.6, and Bjørgen just going away here.
Looks as though the Swedes have caught the two Finns. What's that, some 7 kilometres after the ski change, so it's taken that amount of time to gain the 25 seconds that they will have thrown away by coming in to change skis. Now Johaug's in trouble again, David. She's slipping and slipping and slipping. I know that's the steepest climb they go through, but I'm a little surprised to see her in so much trouble, and if that continues, she could well lose out on second place, which would be curtains as far as her overall World Cup win is concerned.
Yeah, because as soon as you go to third place, then Marit Bjørgen will be gaining 40 points. If it goes to fourth place, then she's gaining 50 points, plus the points that she's picking up through all those bonuses. So she will have completely eradicated the deficit going into Falun.
Yeah, if Johaug drops down to fifth place, they will be 1 point apart going into tomorrow's race. Johaug would still be in the yellow in the next race, but I think that would be the end of her chances. So she has to stay second. We'll watch out for her on the next climb. You have to remember that the temperature and the snow conditions does change depending on the aspect of the climb. If it's north facing, you tend to get slightly better grip. If it's south facing, you get worse grip, and that has always been a feature of the Holmen Collen, particularly the 50k in the old days, when it was either just 2 loops or 1 big loop, because you knew you'd be able to get up the north facing slopes, but you wouldn't be able to get up the south facing slopes.
And Theresa, the last 900 metres, she lost another 3 seconds. It's not as bad as it was during the second loop, where she was losing a second per 100 metres. And as you said, the Finns now pretty well on terms now with the Swedes, I should say, pretty well on terms with the Finns.
Viken looking as though she's just starting to tire at this stage. Bjørgen looks as strong as ever, and it is a not that I know too often, but a great feeling to be out front. Psychologically, it's very different. She's in control. She's not having to answer to anyone else putting in a burst or skiing a little bit faster than her. She can just ski at her own impressive pace.
Between the tracks, and of course, the other thing, Patrick, is when you're in this situation, as Therese was in 2011 in the World Championships, you're out on your own and you're clear. But then, you know, to keep the focus, your mind has to stay on the job.
Well, it does, but back in 2011, what did we have, 150,000 surrounding the tracks? She was just being carried on a wave of noise and phenomenal support. That had to be worth 30 seconds or so each lap.
It's not unusual, though, for athletes to be out on their own, because that is something they will do in training.
It's something they do in training. You're on your own for most of the time trial races, so she's perfectly used to it, and they're used to listening to the body. Now, you know, when you work as hard as Bjørgen is here, the body is getting overheated. There'll be pain, there'll be lactate that she's having to cope with, but she knows exactly the pace that she can afford to push. What's so impressive that in the state of fatigue that they're in, that they can still ski with the perfect technique. And I think that actually marks those apart who started as 2-3-year-olds because they've never done anything but to ski well, from those who start at maybe 14, 15, and Kowalczyk falls into that bracket. And we do see Kowalczyk fail in a freestyle race when she gets very tired. She loses the ability to tackle the technical parts of the course. And certainly as far as Brits are concerned, who don't sometimes start till 25 or 35, it gets very, very difficult to ski well when you're tired.
And Bjørgen out on her own some here. Just sensed, actually, and you wouldn't be surprised at this stage of the race, because at this point she's, what, some 23, 24 kilometers into the race almost, and beginning to perhaps just feel the effects of the journey here, but knowing that 6 kilometers is something she can manage. And you know, here she's just being so supported by the fans here. This is one of the wonderful characteristics. If you're having a great time, they love you to death. If you're having a poor time, they'll lift you.
Well, it's not so often that you have a course, all the World Cups are well supported, but the majority, the support is in the stadium and only in the stadium. The beauty of the Holmenkollen area is that the public have access to just about every part of the course, and they'll find a little spot where they'll stay all day long, and it makes a massive difference to the athletes as well. And I think that's something that all hosting cities and towns should work on. Allow the spectators out onto the tracks, even if they charge a fifth of the stadium price. Get them out on the tracks, because that's what the athletes enjoy, and it's what makes the atmosphere.
Marit Bjørgen now. No, she's going to go straight out here. I'm not surprised. Let me just bring you up to date with one or two other people where they were running before they come into the stadium. Obviously, Marit Bjørgen. Navratilova was about 2 minutes 42 off the pace. Steyr 2:44 running with her. Heidi Weng 3 minutes behind. Likewise, Tchekhalova and Kristen Lakenmaki, and also Marta Kristoffersen and Sadie Bjørnsen. And Ishida 3 minutes and 12. Disappointed that she hasn't made an impression on this, and she's dropped back to 17th place. Randall just behind her with Ersberg, Kilonen, Laura Org. You mentioned her, 4 minutes back at the moment, the Spanish racer.
Well, here we go with Johaug, and I guess there's a slight question mark. Will she change? She's certainly been slipping on this last 5 kilometers.
Well, her question isn't surely, does she feel secure in second place? Because changing could be the one thing. If the Finns and the Swedes decide to go straight through, well,
it's a really difficult decision, because she's about 30 seconds clear. It will take 25 seconds to change skis, so she knows she'll lose the bulk of her advantage. But will she lose more? I think with so little distance to go, we'll see her carry on. Yes, she's not going to turn right. Out she comes, and I think that's probably the right decision at this stage. But she's going to have to do a lot of work with the upper body, and she does not have triceps and lats like Marit Bjørgen. So it's going to be a tough finish for Johaug to hold on to that second spot.
So comes through with Bjørgen. She's now 78 seconds behind. And then you've got Charlotte Kaller. Now, Charlotte Kaller's management of her energy across her races has been impressive this season. And you can expect her to finish strongly as well. And she's, as you can see here, being pursued by the two Finns as they come towards this line here. And there's the gap back to Johaug. That's 2 minutes. So at the moment, Johaug looking probably just about safe enough. 40 seconds should be enough, shouldn't it?
I think she'll be fine. I did notice that even coming out of the stadium, which is a gradual climb, that she was double poling as opposed to using the two-phase or the diagonal gate, as it's called, the traditional glide and stride, as some people call it. But that would be a little concern. But 40 seconds is quite a margin.
Well, would you like to rain some superlatives? Or perhaps let's do something different. Let's appreciate Charlotte Kaller's season, because she's in third place now. And, well, Sochi was a revelation, really.
It was a fantastic effort. I think what Kaller did, which is what more and more athletes are doing, is identifying races that they want to do well in and then working out how they're going to do that. Kaller's first decision was, okay, the Olympics is most important for me, therefore I do not race the Tour de Ski. That's quite a bold decision. It's harder to pull an athlete out of a race than to put them in it. They love racing. So to bypass the Tour de Ski, I think, was a good decision from Kaller. Then her performance in the skiathlon was sensational, getting the silver medal behind Marit Bjørgen. She went on and produced more good results. The only one that she didn't really perform to her abilities was the 30k. But I think by that stage of the Olympics, she was very, very tired. And for once, the Swedish technicians made more mistakes than the Norwegian ones. So I think the Swedes had worse skis on that final day, the final Saturday of the Games. And that's why Kaller wasn't up with the leaders.
But the improvement in her classic technique is another thing that I think we have to pat her on the back for, because she's quite clearly applied herself and worked very hard at that.
Certainly, I think with the skiathlon and with so many of the mass starts, I think you have to be equally good at both techniques. And it's easy in the early part of your career to say I'm a skater and just stick to that, but you have to practice both now if you want to feature in the standings at the end of the season. And I think the highlight for Kaller really was the 4x5 kilometre, where she clawed back a 30-second deficit on the Finns and won the race in the last 100 metres. Sensational race, perhaps, or certainly for some, the most exciting race of the Games.
And Niskanen is another athlete we ought to praise and reflect on the progress that she's made.
Well, Niskanen and the whole of the Finnish team. Saarinen, I think, can take a lot of credit for being the oldest member of the team and drawing the youngsters along. Niskanen's risen to the occasion. Lattenmäki's done well. And they're not quite there. They need another 2 or 3%, and then they will start to challenge the Norwegians. They've just got to work out where those 3% are going to come from.
I'm reflecting on the Tour de Ski. I mean, we all know how it was born. Jochen Belle was one of the men who was really enthusiastic, with Vegard Ulvang as well, to have this Central European competition, you know, in the heart of the big cities of Europe at around the turn of the year. And yet now I wonder whether, when you reflect that when you come out of the Olympic Games, for us, of course, this is very exciting. For the Norwegians, you know, this is a terrific occasion. Yesterday's 50, today's 30. But, you know, perhaps when you come out of the Olympics, when everything almost seems a sideshow, the one thing that might do it is if the Tour de Ski actually was in the last month and actually, you know, somewhere in Scandinavia, say it was a race from Stockholm to Oslo or the other way round.
Well, I like that idea. I think you've got two options. Either when there's a major championships, you make the Tour de Ski much shorter and you have it at the same time period and hold it in Europe, or when you've got a major championships, you hold it in Scandinavia at the end of the season. It becomes the season finale. And in the other seasons, you hold it in Europe and you make it a New Year's race, which is fantastic. But when there's a major championship, so many of the big names are going to withdraw, and we want the best names on the Tour.
Absolutely, because 3 out of 4 years in the Olympic cycle, we have championships, 2 World Championships and an Olympic Games. So there's only one clean year when you can actually operate, shall we say, a sort of a murderous Tour de Ski. So still Bjørgen in charge, and by a long, long way here. .118, and now you can see it stretched again here. That's another 6 seconds that Bjørgen's taken out of Johaug, or Johaug's given away to Bjørgen, whichever way you like to assess it. It's just really a pity, isn't it? You know, because you have such a dominant athlete, and then one piece of equipment preparation doesn't quite go right, and suddenly it's a bit of a procession.
It would have been interesting had Johaug had good skis for the first 12 kilometres or so. I think she may well have still been with Bjørgen, but Bjørgen would have won all the sprints and she would have won the final as well. So the result is going to be the same. It's just that we haven't had quite the normal amount of entertainment that these two have provided over the last 4 years. But you just have to admire what Marit Bjørgen's done. It's not all been glory for her. If you will remember back to 2006, 2007, she really struggled.
And this is another 5-point gain here. So she's taken all the sprint bonuses and really, now look at the expression on her face here. She's actually really enjoying this. She's cruising.
She's cruising. She's gone past the high point. It's pretty easy skiing from here back down to the stadium. There are, of course, some climbs, but she feels it's job done. You don't often see a smile before the race is over, so she's well aware of where she stands. She knows exactly where Therese Johaug is, and she'll be happy with that. She's going to get the 20 points plus the bonuses, and she's going to reduce the deficit by half with another 300 points still on offer.
Yeah, unofficially from 71 it'll go down to 31 points, and now you can see Niskanen breaking away from Kalle. Got that higher tempo, and Kalle just not quite as connected or as fluent as she was. And Niskanen actually running a really good race there in 3rd place.
Again, the grit wax being the difference between those two. Charlotte Kalle's lost the grip on her right ski, and as a consequence having to work much harder with the upper body, and as a consequence of that not feeling as comfortable as Niskanen, who's still skiing technically very nicely.
So gets her 10 bonus points, but now 127, and Bjørgen has just opened up. Now it's as she's relaxed Bjørgen, and she's actually becoming even more effective, and Kalle struggling here. Look how short the stride is here for the Swede. So Niskanen, mid-20s from Vuokatti. Here she is in picture. Head coach Magna Dahlin at one stage during the season didn't look as if he was going to have a successful Olympics with his female team, as he ultimately did. But a winner in Lenzerheide over 10 kilometers in classic style here, and 3rd on the podium in Holmenkollen. That is an achievement, and Kalle now struggling in 4th place. And look at the margins. Johaug had 40 seconds at the moment. Absolutely no danger of being caught by either Niskanen or indeed Kalle, and Viken and Saarinen just coming up here. Viken leading the way here, looking probably pretty good here for 5th place.
Yeah, it's a solid performance by Viken as well. Only 2:55, so 30 seconds to make up on Kalle. If Kalle struggles, that might be possible. Saarinen, gritted teeth. Maybe she's having a second win, and closing down on 19. That's Emma Viken. So Saarinen's not given up on a top 5 either. And maybe using her endurance, her experience to produce a good finish. And a whole team of Norwegians skiing together. Number 4 is Heidi Weng, who'll be disappointed that she lost touch very early on with Johaug. And actually, we picked up that she was struggling in the first 5 kilometers. So Weng perhaps doing well to stay with the other group of Norwegians. Osberg is in there as well.
And now inside the last 5 kilometers, it is Marit Bjørgen making the best of her way home. 35 there, Sofia Blekur, who's run a decent race there behind Neveltova of the Czech Republic, but all of them have been losing chunks of time to Marit Bjørgen. And another little chase group coming through here. 28 leading that group there. That's Martha Christopherson. 14 in picture, Masako Ishida.
Keegan Randall in there as well, the American having a good fight. So if Randall can find something in the last couple of Ks, then she can gain 7-8 places. That's really where the race is, David. Marit Bjørgen is a demonstration of how it should be done. Theresa Johaug is a demonstration of how you hang on to a position, because it's not been easy for Johaug today, but all the action is coming behind, and even third place isn't quite secure.
3,400 meters from Marit Bjørgen, just the last rotation here, and then it'll be back to meet the king. And for the 4th time here in Oslo, and that will make her the most successful female athlete over the 30-kilometer distance. She's accomplished this task in freestyle skating and in classic, and again that just underlines. And there you can see Marit Bjørgen at the moment, 15 points at the last check there that they're giving. They haven't updated those as we've gone through, but I can tell you now we've had 4 bonus points, and she's in each occasion gone ahead of Theresa Johaug, and she's made 5 points a time on her. Well, in fact, just a correction on that, she's gone through and made 12 points for it's not 15-10, it's 15-12, so apologies for that on my part, but it's still 12 points. That's still going to potentially give her a gain of 32 points, which is again going to virtually slash the deficit into half here. So Theresa Johaug coming through, and now really the only question is whether the 3rd place athlete can get to Theresa, but that's not going to really happen, is it, Patrick? I mean, she's well on her way now, and she's got enough of a cushion to hold on to 2nd place here, Johaug.
And more to the point, the dynamo is back. She's working at 100% again. Marit Bjørgen starting to cruise, so we may see the gap between Bjørgen and Johaug close a little, but Bjørgen's very much in control of this one. And what's strange, often when you ski within yourself, you cover the ground a little bit quicker because technically you're better and you're a little more comfortable. But Johaug won't be caught in 2nd. I think the question is, will Niskanen hold on to 3rd? We'll wait and see what sort of a margin she has. 15 seconds will be enough, but Kalle hasn't given up on this one quite yet. But you can see Kalle double poling when Niskanen was using the 2-phase technique, and that's because Kalle doesn't have as good a grip on the ski, and she's just not quite as effective on the uphill sections. Again, another little slip from Kalle, and that I think will seal her fate of finishing in 4th place.
48 seconds really, the 3rd place Finn back from Johaug, and Marit Bjørgen now just getting the cheers because the crowd know that this is the last time they're going to see her, so all the congratulations coming in now. And you can see it's a chilly day. It's actually +5, would you believe, but incredibly the wind and this fog, or mist I should say, has made it much chillier than that. And here, look at the crowd. Real appreciation. And for them this is special because not so many were able to afford or get to the Sochi Games, so this is a great opportunity for them to recognise their greatest ever female athlete. Well, at least in cross country.
Certainly in cross country.
And you can just see the way that she's doubled over here. This is really painful for Johaug.
Well, that's the hill that gave her problems on the last lap. Once she's safely up that, I think she'll be able to cruise home. But it's been hard work for Johaug, and maybe she'll regret decisions made about the stick wax, how much of it, how thick it should have been earlier on. But I'm not sure, even with the best skis in the world, I don't think she would have stayed with Marit Bjørgen today, who has not put a foot wrong. One or two minor slips, but otherwise she makes the transitions from the two-phase to the herringbone just when she needs it. Never seems to lose her momentum, and has just pulled away bit by bit, and now is having an easy run for home.
And if she wins this race, which she surely will, that will be her 8th individual victory of the World Cup season, compared to Johaug, who, with those bonus points from the Tour de Ski, the victories in there, has actually only won 3 individual races. So it sort of echoes the point you were making about the re-examination of the points adjustment. And again, I would have rather seen this race without any of these bonus points. I think it's not necessary at this stage. It's something that's been introduced, the BMX Drive bonus point system, but I'm not sure that it adds anything to this sport.
I think it works better on the shorter races, but an endurance race is an endurance race, and all you're going to do is ask people to sacrifice the possibility of winning, particularly in the men's, where the sprint for the points is ferocious, and so often the potential winner blows his chances by going for those points. So it adds a little bit of interest, but for me it doesn't work as far as the overall World Cup is concerned.
So just drops the arms down. They will be burning, as will the legs. It's been a monumental effort here from Marit Bjørgen. But you still have to concentrate. You come around those fast turns, you're picking up speed. It's oh so easy just to catch an edge if you get the technique wrong.
We've seen it in the past. It's a rare occasion. It tends to happen when you've got a group of skiers. So if you had 6 or 7 all coming into the finish together, which we saw in the men's race back in 2011, yes, you can have a little bit of mayhem, but not when she's out on her own. She can pick her own bit of snow. She knows exactly where it's going to be firm, and she knows exactly how fast she can take each corner. This is the final climb for Marit Bjørgen, and she's still got a smile as wide as the stadium as she can just completes that final climb. She knows she's home and dry now. She can soak up all the applause.
Well, real appreciation for Marit Bjørgen. Just this top terrace, and then the left-hander to swing her down into the stadium. Teresa Johaug, it's been hard, but she's solid in 3rd place. And Niskanen still looking good to take the bronze here. And Marit Bjørgen now, and they are actually raising a huge crescendo. All those people in the ski jumping bowl, as much as they can, they're looking up. They've got a big screen, and there it is, the main stand packed with Norwegians, and the patrol come out and salute Marit Bjørgen just up this last bit of climbing, really. And what a phenomenal athlete she is. 33 years of age. In fact, she'll be 34 on the 21st of March. So what a fantastic way to end an amazing season, yet another amazing season. Coached by Eagle Christensen, and, well, how has she supported the Norwegians over the years, and 7 World Championships, 4 Olympic Games she's represented her country at. And it might be slowing her down. Into the headwind she goes. And now How good must this feel, Patrick?
Well, it's difficult to know. She was overjoyed when she finally won the team sprint out in Sochi, because things had started to go wrong. But this seems to mean even more to her than Matt does. And it's so seldom. She's been smiling for the last 12 kilometres. But hats off, it's been a wonderful performance. She just applied the pressure early on, shook off Therese Johaug early on in procedures, and wraps up yet another victory. And that could be the turning point. It could be Crystal Globe coming her way after stealing those bonus points plus the 20 for finishing first ahead of Johaug, who's going to get 80. So Bjørgen gets 100. It's a very, very important race and a very important result for Bjørgen.
Absolutely all smiles, and Bjørgen now being applauded by the press. Therese Johaug now solid in second place and coming up the hill there. She's getting the applause for a gutsy effort in difficult circumstances. Clearly the equipment was not as she would have wished today, and that high tempo, which is her trademark, her characteristic, in these circumstances, not able to allow her to be with Marit Bjørgen. But I echo what Patrick said. I think that even with everything going her way today, Marit Bjørgen would have had the better of her. And of course, it makes for a superb finale to the women's cross-country season when we go to Falun for the final sprint and the skiathlon of the season. And of course, whilst each of those races only carries 50 points for the winner, the overall winner of the Falun competitions will collect a bonus of 200, and that'll be all the difference. And Johaug appreciating the support she's had. Teresa, 25 years of age, silver medalist in Sochi in the 30-kilometer race behind Marit Bjørgen. A bronze medal in the 10-kilometer classic as well. And Niskanen, a pat on the back here for Kerttu Niskanen, because this is a great effort from her. Another young woman in her mid-20s, and coming in, she's won a World Cup section of the Tour de Ski this season in Lenzerheide, but she's coming in to get her best ever distance performance. So hats off to Kerttu Niskanen. You're going to hear an awful lot more of this young woman from Vuokatti. And in the background, Charlotte Kalla coming home in fourth place. But these are huge margins. And there, your 1, 2, 3, Norway, Norway, Finland, as Sweden's Charlotte Kalla comes home. It's been a wonderful season for her, 26 years of age. And of course, skiathlon silver, skiathlon 10-kilometer classic, and also the relay gold. Aina-Kaisa Saarinen to come home and grab fifth place ahead of Emma Viken. Aina-Kaisa Saarinen, who has really also produced great results, silver in the relay with her Finnish teammates. And Emma Viken there, a young racer, but a racer of huge promise, taking sixth place, up with the pace for about half the race there. But Emma Viken, only 24 from Falun. What a reception she's going to get. And there you have the race here, the Czech racer Navratilova on the far side there, out sprinting Heidi Weng. And as she comes home, Navratilova and Steyr, I beg your pardon, in eighth place there, taking the finish. And Blekor, an excellent ninth place for her. And look at this, Lehtonen-Markki, so 3 Finns in the top 10. That is something of note. Chkalova, the best for Russia, there in 11th place. Randall 12th. She'll be pretty pleased with that, Keegan Randall. And now here comes a whole host of them, and it is Heidi Weng who just gets there ahead of Østberg and Bjørnsen. Actually, Bjørnsen and Østberg in that order, and Kristoffersen also in that group there for the Norwegians. But 1:20.55.7, the winning time of Marit Bjørgen. And she will be the athlete who will be, not for the first time, presented to His Majesty King Harold. Masako Ishida in 9th place. For me, disappointing to be 5 minutes and 6 seconds back. That's a long way back, but there she is, coming to the line in front of all the commentary boxes there just above you. That's the home of TV just up there. NRK, as ever, our host broadcasters doing a wonderful job in covering the races here in Holmenkollen and covering the moment. That picture, which will be, as you might imagine, on the front as well as the back pages of newspapers like Aftenposten and VG in the morning. Well, 2011 was the exception, but normal service resumed here by Marit Bjørgen as the rest of the field makes its way home, and you can see the big differentials here. This is the measure by which Marit Bjørgen can master a field. Org of Spain, 6 minutes and more back. So we can reflect on what Marit Bjørgen has done here. She has become the only athlete in history to record 4 30-kilometer victories here at the Holmenkollen, 2005, 2010, 2012, and now in 2014. And also, this is her 100th World Cup podium finish. So that's yet another amazing landmark. She's also the only athlete in the 30-kilometer races here to have won in both classic and free technique. And the Norway women at the moment, when you look at the World Cup, they are dominating. They are in 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th places. Johaug, Bjørnsen, Jacobsen, Weng, Randall comes in at 5th place. And if it stays like this, Norway has done this once before, back in 1984, 1985, when Annette Boer, ahead of Greta Nicolmo and Britt Pedersen, achieved that mark. And the Russians have done that as well in 94-95, when Yelena Valbe and Nina Gavriluk and Larissa Lasutina were the winners of the overall World Cup in positions 1, 2 and 3. Micah Kaspersen-Faller, you can see there, the winner of the Drammen Sprint earlier in the week, 7 minutes behind. Dotsenko just coming home, another athlete perhaps better known for her sprinting prowess. And there you have the confirmation, albeit very quickly. And hopefully we'll bring you the World Cup point standings very shortly, just to confirm that Theresa Johaug will stay top of the World Cup rankings, but Theresa will be concerned that Marit Bjørgen, in the form she's in, will be closing in pretty strongly on her. So 100 points to Marit Bjørgen, and that means that she goes up to 1,182 points. But of course, the 80 points goes to Theresa Johaug. So we'll try and do some maths for you in case those points don't come up. So Theresa Johaug, excluding the bonus points today, she goes up to 1233. Marit Bjørgen, 1082, goes to 1182. So without the bonus points taken into account, the gap is reduced from 51 to 71. But that is going to be reduced even further because there's at least 15 points by my reckoning to take off that. So Falun is going to be absolutely the decider of the season. So very shortly here on Eurosport 2, the Roma Maxima 195-kilometer cycling race, another test of endurance. And His Majesty King Harold in picture there, waiting for Marit Bjørgen to arrive to receive his personal congratulations for 2 more important milestones in her career.